All right, what is up, guys? It is Dane here from Clarkey's Rugby League column. Welcome to Clarkey Reacts. For the 12th of September, we've got 19 bits of news from today. As always, you can find all of it every single day down here. Facebook and Instagram, we've got the slides on the feed, and we've got the voting on the story. We've got nothing on Twitter because it sucks. We've got a short video on TikTok, and of course, you're watching the YouTube, where I break down and react to all the NRL news every day. So let's start, guys. This one's by the Daily Telegraph, Brent Reid. This came from the West Tigers Awards night. Their chairman, Lee Hagapentelis, he apologised to club sponsors and members. Basically, the quote went on to say that this is the line in the sand for the Tigers. They know their new identity as a club they want, and they're prepared to strive forward and achieve that. I like the optimism, but I think I have to be realistic here. The line in the sand moment for me probably would have been 2014, which at that stage would have been when they've missed the NRL finals for 3 years in a row, right? I mean, if we're being serious here, this is a club that has not played finals footy since 2011. That is a really, really long drought. I know people pay out on my Titans, and rightfully so. We're not a very successful team. But we played NRL finals as recent as last year. And so when you put it in perspective like that, it really does sum up how dire the situation is for the Tigers. I really don't see them improving next year either. Their roster's not improving. They're bringing Tim Sheens back. Are we forgetting that they moved him on it only a few years ago because he wasn't up to standard? Not only a few years ago, but they did move him on years and years ago because he wasn't up to standard. He didn't have the greatest of success in the Super League. And Tigers fans are expected to believe this story that he's going to come back and save them. And a bloke who's never coached a day in his life, but was a fantastic player and a club legend, is suddenly going to save them. Now, what I will say for Benji Marshall is, let's say he came into the Kiwis for the World Cup. I believe you could have a massive effect there. Similar to how like a Wayne Bennett has the effect for the Queensland Maroons. Because it's a short format competition. Where every player is already at peak conditioning, peak skill level. Your job's to come in and motivate them. Benji Marshall, I really can't see how he's going to come in and handle a full 25-round NRL season. I don't see how he's going to get that experience as an assistant coach at NRL level for 2 years. Most assistant coaches in the NRL have been head coaches for multiple years in reserve grade, under 20s, Super League. And so, getting back to the whole Tigers thing, guys, I don't think this is a line in the sand moment. I don't think the club is going to improve anytime soon. I think the issues with this club are going to continue to be present for many, many years. Joseph Tarpany. Now, Buzz Rothfield reports that multiple NRL clubs are lining up to sign him, and that some are even considering offering $1 million per season. His manager said, "I've got more than half a dozen clubs expressing interest." $1 million for Joseph Tarpany? I don't think so. I think he's probably the most informed forward in the entire competition now. There's only really one forward I'd be paying $1 million to, and that's Payne Haas. But the reason why I've said I would do that is because we all agree Payne Haas's value is somewhere around $800,000, right? And so I sort of put it to you. Name me 2 forwards you can sign for $1 million that's actually realistically available, that would go to the Broncos and would have bigger impact than what Payne Haas does. You know what I mean? Like, a $700,000 forward at this stage is a Siosua Takiaho. No, that's a bad example. Well, a $500,000 forward at the moment is Herman Esiesi. And for the sake of sticking it with my Titans, Jared Wallace was a $750,000 prop. Now, that exceeds the $1 million that Payne Haas is asking for comparison. Would you rather have those two in your side or Payne Haas? And so it could lead to a situation where it's the same here for the Raiders. Hey, we think Tarpany's worth $800K. Do we really want to lose him over $200,000? The question will be, which clubs are prepared to offer this $1 million? Because if you're Joseph Tarpany, it's the West Tigers, for example, or the Titans, perennial bottom 4 sides. $200,000 to carry a forward pack and come in the bottom 4 every year? No thanks. I'll take the $800K and remain in Canberra where we're consistently, or maybe not consistently, but we're in the finals more times than we're not. Would I pay $1 million for Tarpany? No, I wouldn't, but we'll move on. I think he's a very, very good player. I think he's the most informed prop in the world, though, right now. Let me say that. Buzz Rothfield, now, he's angled this as praise, but it's sarcastic. He says that Valentine Holmes essentially took the dive of the year to rob the Cronulla Sharks of victory. Very, very biased. I can't talk. I'm biased for the Titans, but I fully disclose that to you guys, and you know when I'm joking. He's not joking here. His bias has genuinely blinded him to the point where he actually believes the Sharks were robbed. It was a very close call with Connor Tracy, but he took out the man going for the ball. This isn't round 1. This is finals week 1, which means he has 25 rounds to practice obeying the rules and sticking within the rule set of the game. And in this instance, whilst it was close, Connor Tracy did not do that. What he did all season has been a sin bin. It's a professional foul. He intentionally stopped a potential try-scoring opportunity. I don't believe they were going to score, but we can't 100% say they weren't going to. Why? Because Connor Tracy's actions stopped us from finding out. Disagree with Buzz massively here, guys. That is a sin bin. It's been a sin bin all year. If he is angry and frustrated about this, I think it would be better directed towards Connor Tracy than it would Valentine Holmes. We move on. Jared Waerea-Hargreaves has been charged with grade 2 dangerous contact for his head slam on Tom Burgess. Probably fair punishment. I didn't think there was too much in it live, but then when I saw the replay, there was definitely the intent to slam his head, and then it did look like there was a bit of a forearm or an elbow additional impact there also. JWH has been walking a tightrope for so long now. I would say he's the biggest grub in the game, but every team needs a grub like Jared Waerea-Hargreaves, right? And so your team is ultimately better for having it in it than it's not. The other component with this, guys, is he can serve this suspension whilst playing for the Kiwis in the World Cup. The 3 games that he will serve with an early guilty plea means he would play all he would serve his punishment, for all the regular games and then return for the Kiwis in the finals. The Kiwis still have prop depth of Moses Leota, James Fisher-Harris, Nelson Asafa-Solomona, and Jesse Bromwich. They're going to be fine. Waerea-Hargreaves is going to return in the finals via the interchange, I predict. Imagine him and Nelson Asafa-Solomona coming off the interchange at the same time when you're tied as a prop in the middle. That is scary. That's intimidating. And he's fine to play round 1 for the Roosters. So, yeah, it's a punishment. I mean, I know speaking to a Kiwi player a few years ago, they pay $10,000 per game. So there's also an element here that he misses $30,000. Will he learn his lesson? No, he's always played like this, so there's no point me ragging on about it. But if you're the Roosters, he's back in round 1 next year, so who really cares, right? Unless you're a Rooster and a tragic Kiwis fan, maybe then you care. But I think I just outlined why you shouldn't care. They got enough depth there. Meanwhile, Tane Milne has avoided suspension. He was sin bin twice. Only one of those high tackles attracted a grade 1 charge, so he's fined $1,800. I mean, I'm fine with it. At this point of the year, do we really want to see him miss a finals game for accidental high contacts? I don't think so. If you're a Roosters fan, you're probably angry at reading that, and I can see your point. I really can. But I just think at this point of the season, especially if we were going to let Taylor May serve a suspension next year, I'm not too fussed. Fine him. Again, will he learn his lesson? No, because it was an accident, so I don't even know what fining him does. But I don't think it was worthy of a suspension. And Tom Burgess, he will be suspended. He's been charged with grade 2 high tackle for his contact on James Tedesco. He's facing a 2-game suspension. Now, if you're the Roosters, you're effing pissed off reading this. Because he was sin-binned 1 minute after this tackle on James Tedesco, but not for the James Tedesco tackle, which meant Adam Keighran couldn't enter the contest. From there, they had an injury, they had an injury or 2, which meant they could no longer basically have 3 players knocked out to bring on Adam Keighran in realistic situation. And if James Tedesco plays that game with how the Roosters were playing, guys, hey, I bet on the Rabbitohs. I tipped the Roosters, but I bet on the Rabbitohs. I had a last-minute change. The Roosters win that game, in my opinion. They were steamrolling the Rabbitohs, making 100 metres every set, smashing Tom Burgess when he first came on the field fresh. He got smashed multiple times. As soon as James Tedesco lost, guys, I turned to the people I was watching the game with, and I said, this one's over. Rabbitohs will win from here. Roosters can't win without Teddy. Suaalii can't move to fullback when he hasn't been training there and have impact. I mean, he's a great young player, but he was very, very bad at fullback. He couldn't pass. He was in the wrong positioning in attack. Defensively, he was good, I will say that. But this high shot from Tom Burgess, you can argue as a Roosters fan, cost you your season. And I'll listen. I agree with you. I don't 100% agree with you, but I'd agree with you if you were a Roosters fan and you said to me, that 2 weeks is fair, because by him taking out James Tedesco for nil punishment, he cost us our season. 2 weeks in this instance, I believe, is fair for Tom Burgess. I mean, he was so lucky to not get sin bin from the James Tedesco incident. And then, less than a minute later, he's taken another player's head off. Crazy scenes. 2 weeks, absolutely fair. Smaller report here, guys, by the NRL website that James Tedesco, Angus Crichton, and Daniel Tupou are all expected to be fit for the World Cup. Angus Crichton and James Tedesco are in my starting Australian Kangaroo side. Teddy is my fullback, Crichton is my back row, and Daniel Tupou is my winger in the Tongan lineup. So that's great for all three sides. They're three elite players, and we definitely want to see them in the World Cup. Adam Elliott is battling a hip injury. He's in doubt to play this week against the Eels. The NRL physio does note it is tough to return from these sort of injuries within a week. Maybe he'll needle it up. I do think we'll see him play, but I think we'll see him come off the interchange rather than start. I think the Raiders will play with their lineup a little bit, and I think we will see him come from the interchange. Maybe that we'll see him start and come off after about 15 minutes or so. And to counter his loss, I'm thinking the Raiders might look to put Zach Wolford to lock, and when Tom Starling comes on at hooker, that way they're not using so many interchanges if Adam Elliott does play a little bit injured. But it'll be interesting to see. That's pure speculation. I've got no real information. That's just my opinion there. The Eels halfback Mitchell Moses requires specialist clearance to be able to play this week, and he's racing the clock to return from his head knock. I think we'll see him play. Again, I'm not a neurologist. I'm not a head doctor. I've got no idea what I'm talking about. My personal opinion is we will just see him play like we saw Cameron Murray play. They'll find a way. He'll find a way. It would be massive if he is not available, and I will definitely say the Raiders win if Mitchell Moses is unavailable. Just how important is that side? We saw Jake Arthur really come on and struggle in the big moments against Penrith, most notably when he kicked the ball out on the full. Such a tough time of the game to come in and to stamp your authority on it. I don't blame him for not playing his best. That's Jacob Arthur. But from what I saw, the Eels cannot win a premiership without Mitchell Moses. But everyone already knew that, right? It's no breaking news from me there. This one's by Buzz Rothfield from the Daily Telegraph. It's reported there's a little bit of drama at the Dragons, guys, where it's been reported multiple times now Andrew McCulloch's set to retire. And I believe that was the club leaking that information to the media, because it's now reported Andrew McCulloch doesn't want to retire. He wants to play on for the next year. He's on about $600,000 to $700,000. So why would you not? After taxes, that's about $450K for the year. That's another house or another unit to purchase for your retirement, which you can put out as a rental property and rent out for money for the rest of your life for one more year. I mean, for that, I do a lot of weird things to my family, so I don't blame Andrew McCulloch at all for this. It makes sense from a money perspective. But from a playing perspective, he is nowhere near the player he used to be. The Dragons would be so much better with the Jacob Liddell there, who they are angling to sign. And the other thing is, if Jaden Sullivan doesn't get any game minutes this year, with Ben Hunt re-signing, I believe we will see him leave for the Bulldogs, as it's reported. And if you have Andrew McCulloch on your books for $700,000, I think Anthony Griffin will be tempted to play him. But a much better scenario for the Dragons is Jacob Liddell starting at hooker, and Jaden Sullivan coming off the field in the 14 role. Defensively, it's not as sound, but the attacking benefit from that is worth so much. I mean, Andrew McCulloch doesn't have a great short passing game close to the line. He's not really crafty like an Appy Coruscant. He can't kick short or long. What he offers is great service, really accurate passing, and really uncompromising, really, really great defense. But that's not enough in the modern game to be a good hooker anymore. And so I can understand why McCulloch wants to play on. I fully respect his decision, but I don't think it's best for the Dragons. I don't blame him though. His interests aren't what's best for the Dragons because he signed a contract and he is more than within his rights to see that contract out. This one's via Fox Sports staff writers. Bronson Xerri, the Bulldogs are reportedly interested in signing him, and they are planning to organise a meeting with him and Cameron Ciraldo. I feel like you guys already know my thoughts on this from previous videos on YouTube. I really like it. Bronson Xerri will still be very young. We saw how much potential he had before he was rubbed out of the game. He made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes in life. The NRL loves a redemption story. Look at Shandor Earl. Look at Matt Lodge. Look at so many other players throughout history. They love a comeback story, and Bronson Xerri's will be no different. I'll go as far to say I think we will one day see him pull on a Blues jersey. That's how much promise he was showing before he was stood down. And it's not as if he was on steroids the whole time. He took steroids to help him quickly recover from a shoulder injury. So, really, really bad move. A mistake. I still think you have a fantastic career in the NRL. He can still play for 10 years, right? I think when he comes back, he'll be about 24. And let's say he has a 10-year career. He'll play until he's 34. Let's say he averages in that 10-year career 20 games. I was going to pick up a calculator there. That's embarrassing. That's still over 200 NRL games. So, I can't wait to see him back either. I feel like by that time he will have served his suspension. And for the fans' sake, as Peter V'landys would say, it'll be great to have him back. Wigan Warriors have reportedly offered Bevan French a much larger deal than the Knights. And it's now reported he's angling at taking that Wigan Warriors deal and not returning to the NRL. Now, I don't know much about Super League, but I believe the Wigan Warriors have Jai Field at fullback at the moment. So if this does happen, maybe we'll see Jai Field return to the NRL. I'm not sure. That's pure speculation, guys. I'm just trying to think of situations here. The other thing would be we could see Jai Field move to 5'8", and then we'd see Bevan French become the fullback for the Wigan Warriors. We are hearing the Knights are interested in signing Ruben Garrick, okay? And we're told that he would be the fullback and Kalen Ponga would move into the halves. And if you're Bevan French, you're sitting there and looking, well, I can earn more money to play my preferred position of fullback against easier competition with less media scrutiny over here in England. I mean, are you really hearing that and thinking, no, let me take less money and come to the NRL and play on the wing, where if I make an error, I'm all over the papers and everyone's hating on me on Instagram, because people don't care so much about the Super League. It's maybe if they don't care, it's a much smaller competition, right? If I'm Bevan French, I'm taking the bigger money, I'm staying at fullback, I'm staying in the Super League, and if you really break it down like I just did, how can you blame him? If Paul Gallen defeats Ben Hannon and Justin Hodges this Thursday, it's reported he may finish his career with a rematch against Junior Bolo. I like this a lot. Their first fight wasn't too competitive, but, I mean, JP was just not experienced with any sort of boxing at that stage of his career, and Gallen was starting to hit his strides. I think the rematch would be much, much closer. I'm not going to talk about this too much because it's really just a report. There's not any really, well, I mean, there's so much that has to happen here still, right? We don't know if Gallen's actually going to beat Hannon and Hodges. I think he will, but we don't know. What I will say is I would love to see this rematch. I think it would be a very, very good boxing fight, and I think it would be a great way for Gallen to potentially finish his boxing career. Buzz Rothfield believes that Latrell Mitchell could become the highest paid NRL player of all time. He predicts his next contract will be worth about $1.4 million in salary and a further $600,000 in third-party deals. Pardon me. Now, I can't agree or disagree with this because the NRL salary cap's still actually not set for 2023. So it does make it really hard. If the salary cap went up by $2 million tomorrow, then yeah, of course Latrell's going to get $1.4 million, right? But let's say it doesn't go up and it stays as it currently is. I would not be paying $1.4 million for Latrell Mitchell, but I wouldn't be paying that for any player, realistically, besides maybe Nathan Cleary. All depends on how the salary cap goes. As for the $600,000 off the field, absolutely. He is so marketable. He's a genuine superstar. A lot of people love Latrell. I love Latrell, and I can't disagree with that at all. As for the $1.4 million, guys, really depends on what happens with the salary cap. Brett Reid from the Daily Telegraph believes that Ashley Klein is being unfairly criticised for the Roosters and Rabbitohs game. Klein wasn't the one hitting blokes in the head. He wasn't the one rabbit punching players as they lay on the ground. He wasn't the one exaggerating injury to milk penalties. I agree, but I disagree. Like, Ashley Klein lost control of this game big time. There were sin bins there that weren't really a sin bin. Like what? I can understand in the context where things are getting crazy, right? Players are just taking control of the game themselves, why he made those decisions, but he lost control. He's a veteran referee. He should have been better than that. As soon as the first two sin bins occurred, maybe he could have called the captains aside and said, hey, this is getting completely out of hand. There is too much high contact. There is too much foul play. The next foul play from either side, someone's getting sent off. Look at me, Tedesco. Look at me, Murray. Do you understand? And potentially that could have calmed down the simmers. I don't know. I'm not a referee. I can't criticize as far as that's concerned. I'm just guessing there. I think it could have helped, but as I said, I'm not experienced enough as a referee to really have a comment that matters anything to you guys on that. But I do definitely agree with the part where it says milking penalties. My God. There was slight contact with the head, and every single player from both sides was just thought, oh, I'll just lay down here and let the bunker intervene. I'll get a penalty for that. Can you blame him? If the referee doesn't see it live, are we really going to get to the point, guys, where players control the game? Because they controlled the game. The referee did not control any of those penalties. The players made the decision to stay down, whether they were genuinely hurt or not, because they knew if they fake an injury, that the bunker will intervene and have a look at it. The only thing I can think to get away from this is if you go down and the game is stopped for you for any injury, and the player is not sin-binned or put on report for that injury, you have to leave the field. You have to leave the field for 5 minutes and have a medical assessment from your doctor. Because you couldn't get up. You were so hurt that you couldn't get up. And we stopped the game, and you got your penalty, but it wasn't really foul play. I mean, it was incidental contact. So go and have a medical assessment. Because you're a big, tough NRL player, and you couldn't get up. Hey, as the referee, I'm just really worried for you, mate. Go and have an assessment. Fans, you get what you want, because the next player is not going to sit down and milk, and the game's not going to go for 3 hours. That's my thoughts. Whether you agree or disagree, we have to do something. We can't just let the players control the game. Don't have too much to add to this one, guys, but it was interesting, so I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Matt Lodge pretty much admits that when Kevin Walters took over at the Broncos, Kevy got the job and he rang my agent within the first day to move me on and said he would pay me whatever it takes. I think this is because Kevin Walters looked at his off-field history and thought this isn't a player I can build the culture I want around the club. But potentially there was other things going on there, such as other players having issues with Lodge. Maybe his training ethic wasn't up to standard. We don't know what Kevin Walters was advised, but with how good of a player Matt Lodge is, I don't think Kevin Walters would have made this decision from a personal perspective. There would have been a professional reason why he wanted to move Matt Lodge on, and so I completely understand why Walters done this. Ultimately, he has improved the Broncos culture drastically. They're not short of quality front row forwards at the moment, so can you really knock him for the decision? I can understand why Matt Lodge would be angry about it, but I think it was the right decision with the benefit of hindsight. Jamal Fogarty is planning to target the Eels back three with floating bombs this round. Very, very smart. I don't know what I can add to this. Wonga Blake dropped 4 of Nathan Cleary's on the weekend. If I was Ricky Stewart, being a former halfback myself, I would be working very, very closely with Jack Wyden and Jamal Fogarty this week on their kicking games, and I would be kicking explicitly towards Wonga Blake. Cameron Smith believes that Cameron Munster is set to leave the Storm. If I'm brutally honest, if he was going to commit to the Storm and extend his contract, he would have done so by now. I feel like he'll be going to the Dolphins, is what Cam Smith said. Hard to disagree, right? Cameron Smith knows the Storm culture better than anyone. And so for him to say this, his experience is that when the Storm offer a good contract and you want to stay with the Storm, you take that contract. In this instance, his manager, Braithen Astor, has said that they're in the ballpark. So we know it's a good contract. And he hasn't signed it yet. So I'm gonna take Cam Smith here. I'm gonna back him. We will see Cameron Munster sign with the Dolphins. He will be the Dolphins' marquee player. And can you hate him? Can you blame him? People say, oh, it's all about money for him. It's all about money. Well, there is also an opportunity here to go up and, as Brad Fittler said on Channel 9, build a club from the ground up. That's exciting. His young kid and his partner, her family is in Queensland. So there's an opportunity for his wife to be happier off the field and for his kid to grow up with their grandparents. So I can't really blame Cameron Munster at all. What more can he achieve at the Storm that he hasn't already achieved? A lot of people will angle this towards money, but potentially Cameron Munster is looking at this as a new challenge in his career that, I mean, he's ticked everything off at the Storm. Multiple premierships, was the best fullback in the world at one stage, best 5'8" in the game, arguably the best player in the game at another, played for Australia, played for the Maroons, won Origins, won international games, won MVP players in Origin games. The only really thing he hasn't won at the Storm is a Clive Churchill medal. So, but if you're a player, are you more motivated by winning a Clive Churchill medal or by going and building a new club into success under Wayne Bennett, someone who you've had a great relationship with in all of your Origin camps? I think we'll see Cameron Munster go to the Dolphins. And that is all the NRL news for today, guys. Thank you very much for tuning into this Clarkey Reacts for the 12th of September. I enjoyed having you guys here. I love talking about footy, if you haven't got the gist already. As I said, all the news is all over the social media down here every single day. I get home from work and the first thing I do is head out into my shed here and work on putting together NRL news for you guys because I'm going to read it myself. I know you guys want to read it, but I know not everyone wants to spend hours going around the internet looking for it all. So let me put it all in the one place for you. Let me react to it here on YouTube, and I appreciate you guys being here. I'll see you all again tomorrow. Thanks again.